Friends of the Risen King, what's up? Enoch here, everyone's moderate favorite rapper. Just not the greatest, not the worst, just right in the middle.
You are one of the rappers of all time.
One of them, yes. One of the Catholic rappers of all time. I got with me a good friend, Kyle. How do you pronounce your last name? Is it
Whittington?
Whittington. Okay, like Bill Whittington from the Chicago Bulls. He was back in the 90s.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that. Good to know.
An aspiring apologist. Does great work in the vineyard in the Catholic world. I'm happy to have him on. We're going to get to know him today. We're going to go all the way back to his life, but check out his YouTube channel. The link's in the bottom. He does great work. You do a lot of stuff with apologetics, but more specifically, a lot of stuff against the Protestant background, right, Pete?
Yeah, and most specifically, the series is called Low Hanging Fruit, and I specifically go after the Protestant arguments, but the bad Protestant arguments, not. Okay. You've got some Protestant apologists that are smarter than others, and it's same thing for Catholic apologists too. I go after the guys that are only spouting off the same tired arguments that have been happening for the past 200 years, that have been thoroughly refuted by everyone. And so that's my wheelhouse.
You're like St. Francis de Sales took care of this 500 years ago. What are you doing?
Oh yeah,
right? Right?
Oh yeah. It's funny because St. Francis de Sales is actually the name of the church that I go to.
Is that right? And same
his
here.
book.
That's interesting. Same here.
Oh yeah, where at?
Yeah, Kentucky.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I didn't know you were in Kentucky.
Yeah.
But I go to St. Francis de Sales Oratory in St. Louis, run by the Institute of Christ the King. Nice. And it's a great place, great community, and then the apologetics book that I go back to probably the most is The Catholic Controversy by St. Francis de Sales. So
yeah, it's a great one. Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. So thank you for that introduction on St. Francis, but we're here to get to know you, Kyle.
Okay.
Let's start from the very beginning, man. Tell everybody what decade you were born in.
So I was born in the 90s. So by the time I my first basketball memory, you mentioned the Chicago Bulls, was going to be Space Jam. And before then, I don't think I really knew what basketball was. But we're not talking about basketball. But so I was born in the 90s. Actually, I was born in Portland, Oregon. Okay. But other than being born there, I've actually never been. So you might pick up on the accent. It's kind of southern, but they anyway, whenever I was less than a year old, my dad moved the family back to southeastern Oklahoma, where he grew up, and I grew up in earnest in southeastern Oklahoma. So I was not raised in a Catholic family. In my town of like 600 people, there was legitimately only one Catholic family, and wow. Just to kind of like fast forward a little bit to where I was 16 years old, I got a chance to go to Europe. So we started in Paris, we ended in Athens, and basically hit everywhere in between.
Yeah.
So at 16 years old, I got to visit the Vatican as a Protestant tourist. And I did have an appreciation for the art and whatnot, but like that was really it. That was it. I was accurately described as a tourist there, definitely not a pilgrim, which, now that I'm Catholic, it's just kind of disappointing because it's just like, man, I wanted to do that. But anyway, I get back from this trip. I was big into Christian rock at the time. One of my favorite bands was playing at the local Catholic church down in Denison, Texas. So, here's Oklahoma. I grew up here. Okay. Denison's here.
Sure.
So we go down into Texas, go to this concert, whatever. It was at a Catholic church.
Yeah.
It was really good. And one of the youth leaders, a woman named Joanna Gallegos, wonderful, wonderful woman. It was funny because she was kind of like the mom of the youth group.
Yeah.
But she invites me out, and she's just like, hey, you should come out and come see us sometime. And I was just like, oh, sure, I totally will. But internally, I'm sitting there going like, absolutely not. I'm not going to a Catholic church. Y'all are crazy. If I go to a Catholic church, I'm going to go straight to hell. So, no thanks.
Right.
So anyway, school year starts back up again, and that one Catholic family had a cute girl that was about my age, well, school year starts up, and it's like, hey, Kyle, you want to come to church with us? And it's just like, well, you are really cute, but this is a Catholic church. Once again, like, I'm worried about my soul here. Catholics going to hell. I don't want to go to hell. So despite being really cute, thanks, but no thanks. But then, and if y'all familiar with my channel, you probably heard this story before. But there was one thing that changed everything. She, I can't remember who said it exactly, but they looked at me and it changed the entire dynamic. They said, Kyle, there's going to be free pizza there. And that was it. I was just like, okay, all right, I'm sold.
Can't beat that.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. So
free pizza and a cute girl. Some folks say that ex-Protestants make the best Catholic apologists.
I've seen that as well.
Yeah.
And while seeing ex-Catholic Protestant apologists, off the top of my head, I can't think of a single good one.
Yes, there's none. Yeah, not in the reverse. But you know what I would say? Pretty girls make the best apologists.
Yeah. So you got me. It's what you're 16, you're getting hit with those fumes, perfume and gasoline, So that was I was getting hit by that. Which, spoiler alert, like, this girl and I, we did not get married, we never even dated.
Sure.
But like, it's always awkward telling the story in front of my wife, because it's just like, oh, is this the cute girl? And it's just like, huh, her? Oh no, not her. And
that's good.
But yeah, so anyway, but I kept going, and and I remember like being like staunchly opposed to like move anything toward anything Catholic, but the pizza was good and the people there were really friendly. And eventually I started asking questions, and because of the youth group that was there, like, I was able to ask these questions. And like, looking back on it now, I understand that all of my questions were really and truthfully just those low-hanging fruit things.
Right.
I didn't have these Gavin Ortland, Jordan Cooper objections to these questions that I had. I was like, it was literally like one of those things, and this legit happened. They handed me a little booklet about like common questions Catholics get, and like, I read that little booklet, and that was just like, huh. And then as things kept going, I encountered history a little bit.
Sure.
Because growing up in a town of 600 people in Oklahoma, which, by the way, basketball connection, Dennis Rodman used to live there. Speaking of 90s Bulls.
No way.
Yes. So look
Rodman.
look up his college basketball. He went to Southeastern Oklahoma State University, which that's like 10 minutes down the road from where I grew up. And like, one of his friends during that time, Mike Rich, was actually like lived right behind like my grandfather. Wow. So anyway, so that's your Dennis Rodman trivia that literally nobody cares about.
Somebody out there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's just I tell people like, I'm from Boca Chica, Oklahoma, and unless you're a Dennis Rodman fanatic, you've never heard of that place. I'm pretty sure they don't make those anymore. But anyway, yeah. So back to the conversion story. So I look at history, and it's like, oh, the early church really was the Catholic Church. This is the original form of Christianity. This is what I've been looking for. Yeah. Because in this tiny little town of 600 people, there was like 15 different churches. And of course, like, I'm sitting here thinking, well, I want to find the true church. Which one of these 15 churches is it? Not realizing that, like, that we had like, of those 15 churches, 8 of them were Pastor Jim's Bible Church.
Right.
We had a couple of Baptist churches. We had, I think we had a Methodist church at one time, and then a couple of Pentecostal churches. I mean, and it's just like, keep in mind, there's less than 1,000 people in this town, and it was kind of crazy. So, but I come through the history, and it was just like, oh, this is what early Christians believed. And then I kind of knew about the Protestant Reformation, and that was just like, oh, this is when these guys broke off from the church, and this is where things really started to get a little crazy. And, while I was still kind of uncomfortable with the Mary thing, like, I kept feeling this call that, like, maybe Catholicism's the way to go. But the way that I knew that I was cooked was I was I was watching Comedy Central because I was a teenager and I still thought Comedy Central was funny.
Sure.
And I can't remember the name of the comedian, and it wasn't even the first time I'd seen this special. And he got to the joke where he makes a priest joke, insinuating that priests are pedophiles. And normally, what I would do, I don't know if I remember that being particularly funny the first time I heard it, but this time I was just downright offended. And like, there's nobody else in the house. I turned off the TV, and I think I legit like turned it off to like go wash dishes or something like that.
Sure,
It's just like that's way better than this trash. And as I'm walking away, it really hit me. It was just like, oh, whether I want to admit it or not, I've converted. I'm done. We got to make this Facebook official now. And I remember I was watching, and this was like 2009. So this was Lent of 2009. We're probably watching The Big Bang Theory because that was like the thing to watch. Yeah. And my mom.
Hey, Haley.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going, Haley? So my mom gets a phone call. So she pauses the TV. She's talking on the phone with her friend or whoever called. And after she gets off the phone, for some reason I had decided that it was now or never. I had to tell my mom I need to convert to Catholicism.
Yeah.
I was like, hey mom, I think I need to become Catholic. And I mean, you would have thought I was coming out of the closet. Like it was just, she was just like, okay, we're gonna get through this. It's just like, I'm disappointed, but I still love you. And it was just like, and then she just went, well, at least you're not becoming a Mormon. And
okay,
because
she had enough sense. That was worse.
Yeah, well, so the funny thing about that is, so my grandfather's sister married into the Hatch family. So
okay.
The senator that Mitt Romney replaced was Orrin Hatch.
Mm-hmm.
So my grandfather's sister married into that family. So that part of the family was all Mormon. And there was big drama in the family because it was just like, oh, we're going to go get married in the temple. Well, if you're not a Mormon, you're not allowed into the temple. So my mom's big thing was that she wanted to be able to come to my wedding. And so spoiler alert again, she did come to my wedding. So
well, absolutely, yeah. Catholics will, we'll welcome you into the church regardless of who you are doing a wedding.
Exactly.
You just can't receive communion, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, that was made very clear. But so they so anyway, but she gave me two conditions, and she said, I'm not going to let you one, you're going to get educated in the faith, because I'm not going to let you walk into this blind, and two, you have to wait until you're 18. So April of 2009, obviously Easter was right around the corner. It was too late for me to start RCIA, and I was 17 years old. So I was just like, well, it just so happens, Mom, that you and the church are on the same page because they're not going to let me come in until next year, and I have to take classes.
Yeah.
And so she was just like, all right, cool. And so I went through RCIA, and I was received in the church of April 4th of 2010.
Beautiful.
So I've been Catholic for a little over 13 years now.
Oh man, beautiful. Welcome home, man.
Yeah.
We can still say that.
Yeah.
Let's thanks for sharing all that, man. I had no idea about any of that about you.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the childhood days still. What do you have any siblings?
Yes. So I had an older brother who passed away in 2015.
Oh.
And then I have a little sister. So I was the second of three.
Second of three. Okay.
Yeah. So, but but it was kind of crazy because we grew up. It just hit me how strange this was earlier, like this past month, about how we were really coming from we were mostly Pentecostal. I think on paper we were technically Methodists, but I can count on one hand how many times we went to that church. Okay. It was mostly the Pentecostal church that we went to because my grandmother would take us.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but then looking back on it now, it's like my grandmother took us to church, but my parents never came with us. And I was just thinking back on that now. I was like, I couldn't imagine not going to church with my kids. But yeah, it's just like, that was one of those weird things that I never considered. But but then when my grandmother passed away in 2004, well, no, weren't going with her anymore. So, and then later on, my mom told me, like, I'm so thankful that your grandmother had already died when you converted, because otherwise we would have never heard the end of it.
Oh yeah, because she was probably what is the anti-Catholic, but against you.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
so they might have even been oneness Pentecostals. So, like,
Hmm.
rightfully speaking, you can't even call them Christians.
Right.
So, and she was once telling my dad that he was going to go to hell because he got, hey, how's it going, Tom? He got baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and not
Uh-oh.
simply in Jesus' name.
Yeah.
So yeah, which is funny because like as Catholics, it's just like in Jesus' names, like roll it back, you got to do it again.
Yeah, did it again.
Like
Did it again. Yeah. Which
try
is
it
kind
again
of
with the
funny.
right
Yeah.
form.
So, tell me about your upbringing. Like, what was? Well, tell me about your favorite like breakfast growing up.
Oh goodness. So I guess my favorite breakfast growing up probably would have been biscuits and gravies made by my dad.
Okay.
Which my mom taught him how to do. So like
Yeah.
whatever. But like I guess like whenever we got to have big family breakfasts, it was it was it was dad that was usually cooking. And but yeah, no, it was actually like remarkably boring how I grew up because there's no big trauma in the family. My parents to this day are still together, and
Sweet.
yeah, so no, I was like praise God for that. But yeah, no, we had a pretty solid upbringing. Didn't we never had to go hungry, anything like that. It was really comfortable, which is funny because I still managed to have like that emo phase where I was, so upset about everything that was so difficult in my life. Though I suppose what that angst and that sorrow was really directed at was like a distinct lack of God in my life.
Sure.
We kind of always took the faith seriously, so I wasn't like fornicating or that was mostly by popular demand though. And it wasn't any of that, but uh, it yeah, I don't know. Like, it was kind of. I realized whenever I was in the military that like my upbringing was kind of unremarkable because while
Mm.
everybody else was telling these wild and crazy stories, like the biggest thing that I had is like, oh yeah, me and my friends were playing Halo 2, and that's about all that I did. Because I mean, it's like I never did any drugs. I didn't start doing real stupid stuff until I got to the military. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, but
It's,
and I could tell more about that later.
yeah,
But
we'll,
yeah.
we'll talk about that. Tell me your favorite cereal growing up. What
Oh
was your favorite
goodness.
brand? Yeah.
Probably whatever you call the Walmart brand Fruity Pebbles.
Hey, Brian.
So,
Walmart brand
so
Fruity Petals.
I mean, like we always seem to have that. Like that was probably one of the best like cereals having growing up because we never bought like the name brand stuff because it's just like why it's the same thing. Probably
It's
comes
the
from
same
even
thing.
and yeah, it comes from probably the same factory line and everything.
It does. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was probably the big one that
So
we
you're a Fruity Pebbles kind of guy, huh?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, now as an adult, like we never have it.
I don't have
Uh,
cereal either. Yeah, I don't eat it
yeah,
either.
it's like, are you kidding me? That's just candy.
We,
Like,
we, we know better. We don't feed our kids cereal anymore. We had the worst diet in the 90s. It was Hot Pockets, Subway, and cereal. I mean, that's what it was.
hey man, Jared lost all that weight though, so Subway's the healthy
Yeah,
option, right?
he lost a lot more than weight. I can tell you that. uh, but so so continue to grow up. Were you an outdoors kind of kid growing with your friends? I know you said that I guess your life was kind of mundane in a way. It was just
Yeah.
normal,
So
every day. But
yeah,
did you play outside bikes? Did you run around in the?
a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So in whenever I was 8 years old, like moved from like a little like oil house, like which was basically like when the oilers would move to town, like this would have been the house that they would have lived in. Uh, we moved from there to a house with like 22 acres of land. So I did kind of actually grow up
That's
around farm
that's
animals.
cool, man.
I mean, you say it's cool, but like the horses were mostly just really expensive lawn ornaments.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I'm not a fan of horses.
yeah, no, it's
They,
just like, what do you like? I mean,
they
unless you've
offer
got
nothing.
yeah, it's like you can't eat them, you can't milk them. Like they're out there, they look pretty.
Yeah,
It's almost like a high maintenance motorcycle, honestly.
it really
Uh,
is. It's a good.
but less
That's a
less
good way of putting it.
Yeah, and it's like a high maintenance motorcycle, but with fewer uses.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Less horsepower.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I remember waking up at 5 a.m. just to feed the horses and learning the pecking order. And it's just like, well, this horse has to get the most because if he gets done, he's going to kick out everybody else and eat their food and stuff like that. But once video games kind of came around into my life, that was mostly what I was interested in. But like I was kind of like a chubby nerd, so like I didn't, I definitely was not among the popular kids, which is hilarious coming from the fact that like my high school graduating class was like 26, and yet we still managed to have cliques. So, but yeah, so like whenever I was saying like, oh, I wasn't getting into any trouble with girls or anything like that, I was like, yeah, well, wasn't really an option to either. So, which looking back on it now, is just like that is 100% the grace of God that was watching my back.
Sure.
Yeah.
So let's move on a little bit forward. Your elementary school, middle school, and then high school. What did you play any sports at school at all, or were you more?
Technically, yes, but they weren't. They weren't physical sports. So I was on the academic team, and I don't mean to brag. I was captain of the academic team, and we were state champions.
Hey,
So my senior year,
brag.
I was on the all-state team. So I was number 6 in the state, and that was super cool. It resulted in exactly 0 scholarships, but it was really cool. So like that's why like the avoiding Babylon trivia whatnot. That's why I was like always on there, is because like if you're doing a trivia night, like I'm your guy. Like I am the ringer on the team.
Yeah.
And so like I just kind of filled with a whole bunch of useless knowledge, and it comes in handy. But you hillbilly. But so actually, like everybody thinks of Oklahoma as flat, but actually the eastern part of Oklahoma has like the Ozarks, so that's more the side that I grew up on. But yeah, but anyway, so that's what I did. We were state champions twice, so I've got 2 state champion rings floating around somewhere.
You were the general.
Yeah. So I captained 2 teams to a state championship, which was really cool. And then like looking back on it now, I was like, yeah, it was really neat and all, but like it really did nothing to like really set me up. Though I don't know if I would have had the appreciation for Catholicism had I not gone through that. So I don't know. I'd have to think more on that.
I assume, God willing, in the beatific vision, we will see all of that, right? Those decisions that we have made, where they led us, and other folks, I guess, too, right? Which is beautiful. So, did you have like a solid time in high school? Was it tough for you? Did you go to prom and all the school?
I mean, I did. So I did prom, and both of us. So my junior and senior year, and then I did the homecoming dance, which was supposed to be a Sadie Hawkins dance, which was, because I mentioned earlier how I was big into Christian rock, so I thought it would be funny if I wore a hideous sweater and khaki pants because of the Reliant K song.
Okay. And
then I showed up and absolutely nobody got the joke. So I just looked like I was poorly dressed and absolutely nothing. But I was really,
that's funny.
I was really, really awkward. But it wasn't about until like that summer between my junior and senior year where I figured out that like, hey, because I was that 100%, and like if you're in my Discord server, you've heard me say this before, but I was the guy that was like, well, actually. Yeah, that was me. Like that is 100% who I was.
You were Jimmy Aiken before Jimmy Aiken, huh?
Yeah. I'm trying to get there now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that summer I got to thinking, it was just like, nobody likes me. Why does nobody like me? I'm a smart guy. Why is that? And then like I really pondered on the like, well, I need to be nicer. Like nobody likes me because I'm a jerk. And I'm a smart jerk. So I'm a jerk with really nothing to offer. And so anyway, I got to thinking about that. I started being nicer. Started to try to be more friendly. And actually, like by the time like I finished my senior year, the quote unquote enemies that I had, like we were all friends. Like I finished the year cool with everybody, and and now and like maybe some other holdovers might have stayed there, but now as an adult, it's like we were kids, we were
Yeah.
dumb kids doing dumb kid things. I'm not gonna hold that
Hey,
against any
kudos to
adults.
you, man. You had the humility early on to ponder on what you were doing wrong. That's
Yeah.
give yourself a pat on the back for that. Let's move on to music. I guess let's talk about music.
Okay.
Um, I asked this question to everybody. You gotta tell me who your favorite Catholic rapper is right now.
Oh well, that's super easy. That's gonna be Righteous Beat. No,
Hey man,
well,
not a bad choice. Righteous Beat,
yeah,
he was holding it down in the
I,
early
I
two
I remember
thousands.
I got to see him at a Steubenville conference
Sure.
in Louisiana. So, but like other than that, like honestly, like I wasn't really big into rap. Like
Right, right, right.
I was the emo punk
Hmm.
kid. I think I had like not even an iPod, like these like those cheap little MP3 players that
Right,
we
right, right,
had
right.
back in the late noughties.
Mhm.
But Yeah, I think I had a few Eminem songs on there, but like the generic stuff that like everybody knows, like "Lose Yourself."
Sure.
But yeah, but the big thing that I was really into was Christian rock, and I kind of dabbled a little bit into like some of the other punk rock stuff. That
Name
like
some bands. Name some bands that you like.
so here comes my hipster. So I really enjoyed Manic Drive. That was the concert that I went to, and like there's a nostalgia reason for that.
Sure.
Oh my goodness, Thousand Foot Crutch was the first concert that I ever went to.
Nice.
So that was fun. And then Reliant K was a big one. Uh, I mean Hawk Nelson. Like I've got a few pictures floating around still of him in a Hawk Nelson shirt. Like I was actually kind of
Mm,
really disappointed whenever I found out that like their replacement lead singer turned atheist. So
I heard about that.
yeah, so which is kind of cool though because like Trent Horn's actually got like an ongoing dialogue with him going on. So that's encouraging.
Trent's the
But
right guy.
oh yeah, I really appreciate Trent and
Me
all that
too.
he's done.
Me too.
But yeah, so he oh my goodness. So but like as far as secular bands go, like I suppose 3 Days Grace was one of the big ones, and like for like the cringiest reasons. I remember the song Animal I've Become, and I really liked that song not because
Yeah.
of like how catchy it was, but because I thought it really described me. And
Mm.
and it was just like, and I'm looking back on it now, it's just like I was like that pudgy soft white kid who like I didn't have a violent bone in my body, and here I
Yeah.
am thinking the animal I've become describes me. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Uh,
Do
but
you like
yeah,
corn?
so
What about corn? Not into corn at
I
all?
never messed with corn. So actually, Brian Head Welch though, whenever he hit the Christian rock scene, who
Mm.
I think he actually currently is the lead guitarist of Korn now again. I read
Sweet.
his book, and which was weird for me because I never really read books. So I read his book, which was called "Save Me from Myself." That had a huge impact on me.
Mm.
But like also like I noticed like he got into the Christian scene, but like he was doing some weird stuff in music videos, and it was just like yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Oh, and then like I guess my guilty pleasure between everything was Capital Lights. So I don't expect anybody to have heard of like any of these people,
Sure.
but yeah. So
What about I mean, have you heard of Hollowed yet?
what is it?
Hollowed?
Hollowed?
Yeah.
Can't say that
You,
I have.
you should check him out. I think you'd like Hollowed. He's a
Okay.
he's a young Catholic artist, and he does punk rock music,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
and he's blatantly Catholic, and he had an album out, I think last year. I think it came out the same month I put out Tradiciones, and
Ooh. Okay.
he's a very very talented young man. So I'll send you some of his stuff. I think you'll like him.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, definitely appreciate that.
yeah, absolutely. So move on to Haley got one
No, never heard of it.
and fun. I'll move on to more pop. Well, hold on. Let me ask you this question: has your taste in music changed as you've gotten older?
Yeah, so I'm kind of more on like the Hank Hill opinion of Christian rock nowadays, of like you're not making rock and roll better, you're making, or you're not making Christianity better, you're making rock and roll worse.
Yeah.
And so like, and listen to some of that old stuff. Like I can't stand to listen to it now. Like it's, it's funny, more bands are coming to mind, like Anne Berlin. I remember listening to some of those songs like back in the day and thinking like, oh yeah, this is so good. And now like fully understanding that this was like a 30-year-old man singing this song, and now as a 31-year-old man, I'm just sitting there like, bro, are you serious? Like, just no, go get therapy. Like, so it's just like, I guess it's like, geez, did this guy write this album while he was going through a divorce? My goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now like I don't know, I really kind of like the more folky stuff. So
Yeah.
Mumford and Sons, and then actually one Christian band who has endured Need to Breathe. I really like their stuff. I haven't listened to their newer stuff, but and then Sabaton is also a favorite one, but that's mostly because of their song about the Swiss Guard, The Last Stand. So, but yeah,
Hillbilly Thomas, you like them at all?
I've tried to listen to them a few times,
Yeah.
but it's like I couldn't tell you why. I was like, I think they're fine. It's just I guess it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah, they're talented, but yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten into more folk and bluegrass type of stuff since I've been to Kentucky. I've been really liking that stuff too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on to more pop culture. Like growing up, like what kind of TV were you watching?
So my parents were sci-fi junkies. So that meant that like so was I. So I was watching Doctor Who whenever it was still Christopher Eccleston.
Sure.
Which and I still hold that David Tennant was by far the best one. Like if it was on sci-fi, so I remember watching Farscape, Babylon 5, Stargate SG-1, stuff like that. Which is funny because also like I mentioned growing up like that, and then going into the military, and then like not being able to like talk to anybody about anything pop culture because we only ever did these like really obscure things. My dad was a big Star Wars junkie. Yes, Dietrich, exactly. So it was that was the kind of stuff that I was into. I don't watch a lot of it now. Actually, after Disney took over Star Wars, like I can't stand anything related to Star Wars. But
Disney ruins everything, right?
yeah, I remember, and I mean, in 2011, whenever that merger happened, I was one of the most vocal, like, no, Disney's fine, like, like they're totally gonna take care of it, and then it was just like, and then, yeah, no, that didn't that is not how that happened. But yeah, so like I guess that was my pop culture thing. And then I don't know. I tried to get into anime, and so here we go. Here's where Kyle embarrasses himself. I tried to get into anime, but I really couldn't. But because I thought anime like fans were cool, I tried to like mimic them. So at one point, I had like a Naruto headband that I would wear like around my neck, and because like I thought Hot Topic was like the coolest store ever, and they would sell it there, and yeah, so I did that, and I thought that was the coolest thing, even though like, so can you name 5 of the characters? And I'm like, well, there's Naruto and some others. So anyway, like, so not only was I a nerd, a lot of times like I was a poser nerd. So which was I think is like the lowest rung that you can actually get.
Trying to fit in, huh? That's funny. So moving on to your college years. Although we'll continue with the pop culture really quickly. Movies. What kind of movies do you enjoy now?
Well, so I actually don't watch a lot of movies now. So, before the interview started, we mentioned I've got my 5th kid on the way. So a lot of stuff that I watch is kid friendly.
Right.
Like the new Puss in Boots movie was phenomenal. It was fantastic. And
Rick Barrett said the same thing. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's good. Hey, watch it with the kids. It's great.
Is it any funny business?
I mean, like they say crap.
Oh, that's okay.
And they say they bleep out a few things.
Okay.
But other than that, like it's really and then at one point Puss says, "What the hell are you talking about?" But like, so but like it's really, really good because the entire story is like grappling with death. and how the legend hero is grappling with the fact that one day he's going to die, and which I think it's a phenomenal lesson for kids to
Sure.
grapple with. But yeah, I think it's really, really, really good.
Yeah,
So
we just caught Mario, the new
oh
Mario.
yeah,
That was great.
yeah, no, that was a really good one too. Like my kids really enjoyed it, which is funny because like ever since watching that, like my son now like loves to eat mushrooms, and which is just weird because it's just like I barely like mushrooms, and you're over there like these taste like candy, and I'm like I
Yeah,
think you're exaggerating, but
yeah,
uh, but yeah, so yeah, that's kind of what we do now. But yeah, no, we don't watch a lot. We occasionally we'll just like rent something on Amazon after we put the
yeah.
kids down. Like the latest movie that we watched was Nefarious, which
That
was
was good.
I liked it a lot. And it was
Excellent.
just like wasn't flashy, but man, it was a movie that like you really thought about it a lot,
Yes.
and I really enjoy that. And then all time favorites, gonna be the Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Which the only thing that I'm disappointed about is the Lord of the Rings that they've never made a movie about the Hobbit, and they've never done any spin-offs. So that's the only thing I'm disappointed about with the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, you should. I should introduce you to Ryan Grant. You guys would get along.
That name sounds super familiar.
Ryan Grant runs Mediatrix Press.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, his wife just passed just recently.
That's okay.
Yeah,
That's how I know that name. Yep.
yeah. He's big on all of that. He's a nerd himself in a good way,
Hmm.
just like you. Let's move on to college. You went to college, I assume.
I went for a year.
Right.
I so it's kind of a funny story how this happened. So I told you that I was captain of the academic team, whatever. Believe it or not, I was also incredibly lazy, so my grades weren't great,
Mm,
and I didn't get a single scholarship because, well, I wasn't applying for them, I wasn't trying for them. My entire plan was I was going to join the Air Force straight out of high school,
right, right.
and so I thought that was going to be what I was going to do, and I had all the paperwork filled out. I
Mm,
had everything ready to go. And then I told the recruiter, hey, I'm going to go to this Steubenville Youth Conference first. And whenever I get back, I'll get you this paperwork. And while I was there at this conference, they played like an advertisement for Franciscan. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks that, like, Kyle, go to Franciscan. And
mm,
I kind of freaked out a little bit because here this was. It was the summer I'd already graduated high school, and we're in summer break before whatever. And I'm just like, I can't do this. I can't go to Franciscan. Like this is nuts. I can't. No. And so I was visibly distressed. And you remember me talking about Joanna Gallegos toward the beginning. She was there and she saw me like visibly distressed, and she comes up and she said, what's wrong, mijo? And I was just like, I just got the call to go to Franciscan, and she was like, oh, congratulations. And I looked at her like she was crazy. I'm like, what do you mean congratulations? I don't have enough money for this. I haven't even applied. And and she was just like, well, God's got enough money. If he wants you to be there, you just go. You figure it out.
very smart.
And so I was just like, okay, yeah. So I applied, and I didn't actually get to go in the fall, just because it was too soon to apply. But whenever I got back, I called the recruiter and I said, hey, I'm gonna put this paperwork in the shredder. I'm gonna go to college, and he's just like, man, I can appreciate you, but I just want you to know that if anything changes, I'll be here. And I was like, I appreciate that, thank you.
Mm,
And so yeah, like so after I worked a job full time and I lived with a roommate, kind of got a little bit of the living out on my own experience, and in January of 2011, I went to Franciscan, and within like 3 weeks of going there, I met my wife. But I was wanting to I was wanting to study theology and history. Well, fun fact about Franciscan: if you're studying theology, you have to sign a waiver that basically says you're going to get this degree, you're going to be six figures in debt, and you're not going to be able to find a job. And when that happens, you're not going to blame us. And I was just like, oh, huh, maybe I should reconsider. But it was a struggle because actually, whenever I first showed up, I didn't have a plan to pay for that semester. Managed to get the money together to pay for the first semester.
But at least you met Scott Hahn, right?
Fun story about that. If you remember from my conversion story, I never mentioned Scott Hahn at all. Actually, till you mentioned him, he hasn't come up one bit.
Mm-hmm.
So while I was at Franciscan, my wife and we'd already met. I think we were effectively dating at this point. She introduces me to this tall, lanky kid who danced like the most well-programmed robot on the planet. Because I don't know how to describe it other than like mechanical but smooth was his dancing style. And I got to, chatting with him. He's a nice guy. Actually, to this day, we're still friends. And I was like, okay, well, hey, Jeremiah, let me get your number. He's like, okay, cool, here it is. Jeremiah, what's your last name? And he went, Hahn. And my only question to him was, okay, how do you spell that? And because I had no idea who Scott Hahn was.
Right.
And it was just like, okay, cool. Sweet, thanks, man. Actually, earlier this month, we were in Steubenville, and I was having a cigar with him, and I was telling, he's now Father Jeremiah. I was saying, like, whenever I met you, like, I'd never heard of your dad, and he goes, I had made it a point that whenever I introduced myself, I would not say my last name, and it was just like, well, it didn't matter to me because I had no idea who your dad was. But yeah, so actually, I did get to know the Hans a little bit.
That's awesome. That's really great.
Actually, that Easter, I spent it at the Hans house. So, but yeah, so that was that's my interaction with.
Haley ain't lying. Everybody who went to Steubenville went for a spouse.
Listen, and it's not a bad plan either.
No.
Like, I'm not going to judge anybody who does it. In fact, if you're a young man listening to this and you're thinking, how am I going to find my wife? Like, go to Franciscan.
Or TAC, right? Why not?
TAC. Which one's that?
Thomas Aquinas College.
Thomas Aquinas College. I think Christendom's also solid in Front Royal, Virginia.
Christendom's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, like go to where the good Catholic girls gather, because that's where you're going to find success there.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, but anyway, after so I guess my college years from 18 to 22. So I was only there for 2 semesters, and I ran out of money, had to leave, and that's whenever it was just like, okay, let's join the Air Force for real this time. And I went down to the recruiter's office. He was just like, "Yep, I've seen your kind before," which was funny because, like, I think I was like one of like only 3 that had ever come to his office. But I got a job as an aircraft armament systems technician, which is just a fancy way of saying, sounds sweet, but it's just a fancy way of saying, I put bombs and missiles on F-16s. It was fun. It was great. But, when most kids are, turning 22, they're thinking about college graduation. When I turned 22, I was in Afghanistan. So, but yeah, so that was, those were basically my college years. But like, honestly, the Air Force did a lot of really good things for me. Sure. And I can go in more on that, but I'll see. I'll pause for a little bit, see where you want to go.
Yeah, let's pause and do the this or that.
Okay.
Just take a little quick break. So you don't need to. I'll ask you questions. Just answer them quickly.
Yeah.
We'll just go through them. All right, this or that. Call first thing in the morning or call in the middle of the night?
First thing in the morning.
Okay. Board game or video games?
I want to say board game, but in really video game.
Video games. Okay. What's your favorite video game of all time?
Oh, right now, it's probably Tears of the Kingdom because that's just what I'm playing now. But I think Skyrim is just going to be like one of that all-time great. Yeah.
Sure. Photos or videos?
Videos.
Okay. Social media message or text messaging?
Text messaging.
Take a friend on your family vacation or join a friend on their family vacation?
Take a friend.
Group hangout or one-on-one hangout?
Group hangout, honestly.
Especially with cigars, right?
Yeah.
French fries or onion rings?
French fries.
Share food or don't share food?
Depends on what it is, but I'll say, like, in general, share food.
Got it. Give a ride or hitch a ride?
Give a ride.
Instagram or Twitter?
No.
Neither.
I guess I am on Instagram, but okay. I am not on Twitter.
Shopping online or shopping in store?
Online.
Sweet. Tattoos or piercings?
I guess piercings, or maybe I don't know. I don't have either.
Store bought or homemade?
Homemade.
Got it. What's that, brother? Plans or surprises? What kind are you?
I like to plan surprises, so I guess for me, I'm the planning guy.
You plan that? Pizza or Chinese food?
Pizza.
Favorite pizza?
Kind of pizza? The only valid kind. If you don't have pineapple on your pizza, it's not valid. So.
I was gonna ask you if you're a pineapple on the pizza kind of guy or no pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that if it does not have pineapple on it, you cannot rightly call it pizza.
Okay, yeah, I'm a fan of pineapple on pizza too, because I have a sweet and savory taste buds in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Books or movies?
I want to say books, but really it's movies.
You gotta be honest, man. I love your
Yeah.
honesty. Roller coaster or water slides? What would you prefer?
Oh, roller coaster.
Souvenir or postcards?
Souvenir.
Letters or emails?
Letters.
Yeah. Kind of funny because when emails first started, we were so excited to get emails.
Yeah.
Now we're like excited to get handwritten letters again.
Sarmad, his pineapple is valid.
Listen. Yeah. He's funny, man. He's funny. He's always funny.
Yeah, no, I'm a big Dale Carnegie guy. So if I can deliver a handwritten note, especially a handwritten thank you note, like that is always the way to go. I've actually got a huge box of just generic blank thank you notes just in case. And like, sure. I actually like if y'all are looking to like win friends and influence people, go get yourself a big box of thank you notes, and whenever the occasion hits, write it, just a quick little thank you note, mail it, give it to them, whatever, it doesn't matter, but it doesn't cost much, and it's a really nice touch, and people really appreciate it.
Excellent advice, man. That's good advice. Are you a brand name or generic kind of guy?
I'm a brand name guy.
Is that right? Because earlier on, you eat the generic cereal.
Yes. So the reason for that is I've been burned way too many times by trying to go the cheap option, and then I just end up getting the brand name anyway. So at this point, like I was just like, I'm just gonna skip that middle part and just go for the brand name because like I've got an iPhone, I've got a MacBook, and it's just like these things are reliable. I know that they work. Yes, they're more expensive, but I know that they're also going to be there when I need them.
Absolutely. Gonna last you a long time. Do you like loud or quiet atmosphere?
Quiet.
Let's see. Weekend or holidays?
Holidays, especially holiday weekends.
Nice. Those are the best. Day or night? You're a day or night kind of guy.
Day. If the sun's gone down, I'm going to start to get cranky.
Play sports or watch sports?
Honestly, watch sports.
Okay. Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
All right. TLM or Nova Sordo?
TLM.
Me too. We got one. Cigars or pipes?
Lately I've been on a big cigar kick. It's just a lot easier because I don't have to worry about packing anything. Just cut and go.
Right. Yeah. That's the best part of this. See, I like pipes.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick one, I'm picking a cigar almost every single time for the simplicity of it.
Yeah, especially when somebody else is paying.
Yeah. I mean, cigars will cost you more because you can get the same cost of a stick. You can get a whole pack of pipe tobacco. It will last you longer.
Yeah, we were on a cruise recently, and I got a Cuban, and it was like, and the dude was a super good salesman, but he sold me a $90 cigar, and I was just like, okay, yeah, and I tried it. I mean, it was excellent, but I only got like halfway through, and I was like, I can't throw this away. It costs way too much. Who wants it? And then like 3 different hands like raised up, like I'll take it. So
yeah.
But yeah, it was really good though.
Cubans are good. Yeah. Hockey or baseball?
Hockey every single day. It's not even close.
Is hockey your favorite sport?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's not like I don't know if you remember like me wearing that cowboy hat or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's a Dallas Stars hat. Like I bought that at the Winter Classic whenever the Dallas Stars were playing in the Cotton Bowl. So they were playing an outdoor game. Yeah. So no, yeah, big hockey guy.
All right, let's move on to we'll do three more topics real quickly, and we'll end it. Let's move on to tell us about your time in the Air Force. What you said?
Yeah, yeah. So it was I grand total I spent 10 years in the Air Force, 6 years active, 4 years guard. So I already kind of mentioned it. While I was active, I was putting uh, bombs and missiles on F-16s. I deployed to Afghanistan once. It was a pretty rough time, honestly, because aircraft maintainers are not exactly known for their Catholic friendly culture. They're more like the going out clubbing. Like my supervisor was the kind of guy that would come to work on Monday bragging about how he cheated on his wife the previous weekend. Yeah, it was pretty rough. So I did not mesh well with them at all. Met a lot of really good people, but like, there's a I think the only guy that I continue contact with from my time in active duty was this guy actually went to prison. But I've kept in contact with him just to make sure he's good. So, but yeah, like literally nobody else. I like,
Yeah.
but yeah. So no, I did that for 6 years. Learned a lot. Actually picked up a lot of really good habits during that time. So despite it being rough, I actually still recommend, like, hey, young man, like, what do you want to do with your life? You want to be able to support a family? Okay, well, if you go join the Air Force, you will be able to support a family.
Sure.
I know some people like will criticize that and say like, oh, the military's gone woke, and I'm like, well, okay, yeah, the military's in love with Sodom right now, but previously it was in love with Gomorrah. So like, if you want to complain about culture, like,
Yeah.
then this was always the case. This is not a new thing.
Sure. Sure.
Um,
Pick your poison.
yeah, exactly. I mean, like whenever I showed up to tech school, literally one of the first things so tech school is this training that you do right after basic training.
Sure.
Like before I even saw my room, they did a demonstration on how to put on a condom. So like it was pretty disgusting,
Wow.
honestly.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's nasty.
yeah, exactly. And so I don't want to, yeah, but it is rough. But at the same time, like you learn discipline, you learn attention to detail, you get a security clearance, which is fantastic.
Nice.
And you just pick up so many good things, and you'll be able to support a family. Like the day after you graduate basic training, you could get married and provide for your wife. And
That's a great thing. That's a great
exactly.
thing.
So it's just like you want to get married at 18, which I mean, for most people, that's a bad idea, but there's a
Right.
select few that it's good.
Yeah.
Uh, um,
It
like
should be the norm.
yeah,
If men have virtue, it should be the norm. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's just like if our society like actually treated 18-year-olds like what they are, like men,
Yeah.
and stop treating them like children, then yeah,
Yes.
we would be ready for marriage a lot faster. But
Absolutely.
now, we got these men running around like 25 years old. Oh, I'm not ready yet. And I'm like, well, you're probably right, but dang, that's not a good
Yeah.
thing.
It's tough. Yeah. When you're 25 with the emotional capacity of a 14-year-old,
Yeah,
that's where it's really.
yeah.
Um, so now let's talk about Eros. You met your wife in Steubenville.
Hmm.
Do you mind sharing the proposal story?
Oh, so the proposal story is not great, because every single idea that I had, she knew me so well, because she would say, like, we'd just be hanging out and she'd just be like, whatever you do, just don't do literally the thing that I was planning on doing.
No.
And I was just like, okay, all right.
That's tough.
But then like whenever there was I was in the Air Force, at the time, so I went to the local mall and bought an engagement ring, because that's like the most Air Force thing that you can do. And they uh I go up there, and of course I put it on layaway, because as an E3, I was making like $1,200 a month or something like that. It's not a lot of money. And so I'm paying it off, and then I because I'm bad with money, I couldn't quite get it there. So I actually called her up and said, hey, I don't think I'm going to be able to get the ring before Christmas. It's like, I know you said that you really wanted me to propose this Christmas, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. And she goes, okay, that's fine. I was like, I understand. It's not that you're getting cold feet. It's just a matter of finances. So after that phone call, my dad was like, why don't we just take you down to the bank, go get you a personal loan, and you can just get it from there. And I was just like, yeah, let's do that. So I get the loan, go buy the ring, and we get up there. And I wanted to get my future father-in-law's blessing before I proposed.
What a gentleman.
So I asked him, and he basically told me, "Hey, I'm not ready to have the conversation." And I said, like, "Hey, that's fine." It was my wife was born in December, so like it was actually her birthday party, and her friends were there, and I was thinking like, "Hey, what if I proposed in front of her friends? That might make for a cool, special moment for everybody." So anyway, during the party, I asked my father-in-law, future father-in-law, like, "Hey, let's have that talk now, so that way I can propose tonight." And he goes like, "Nope, I'm not ready for this talk. You got to give me some time." And I was like, "Okay, that's fine. This is your call. This is your house. I'll put the ring in my pocket, and we'll go on." And up until this point, Julia did not know that I had the ring.
Right.
Because I fixed the situation of that. Hey, hey, I don't have the ring, but I never updated her. So anyway, so we get up there. So anyway, I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll keep it. We'll go. So I can't remember. I did something, and I walk into the kitchen. I see Julia and her dad talking, and I say, "Hey, what's going on, guys?" And Julia gives me this big hug, and she just says, "You just ruined the surprise." And I was just like, "Dang!" So like even that, it all fell through, and then so finally, after I'd just given up at that point, and it was just like we had the talk, which was a really good talk, and like even some of the things that he said to me have stuck with me to this day. And I just go down to the basement, which is where Julia was hanging out, and it was basically, and we were both in our pajamas, and I was basically, come here, put this ring on your finger, let's get this done. But yeah, no. So I proposed to her like that, and it wasn't the most spectacular thing. She was like, kind of hoping you'd do something a little special.
And what year was this?
This would have been 2012, so December 2012.
Oh, hey, man! Over 10 years later, you guys are still together, right? You got 5 kids. 5 kids now, right?
Yeah. Well, so the fifth is due in September. Yeah, somewhere. I don't know. Late August, early September. They're going to try to get the baby out early. We'll see. I don't know.
Wonderful, man! Congratulations.
Thank you.
I can't, we'll have to, we'll offer some prayers for you and the wife, and everything goes well in the family. Let me ask you just a few questions. That we're going to discuss faith a little bit, but I try to keep it a little more fun. So we'll do a little treasure island. You're stuck in Ireland. You can only bring 3 Catholic books with you. If you want to include the Bible, you include the whole thing as one book.
Okay.
What you bringing with you?
Okay, so the Bible, obviously. After that, probably the Imitation of Christ, and then
Good choice.
probably then I'm stuck between Introduction to the Devout Life or Uniformity with God's Will. So probably Introduction to the Devout Life. If I'm not going to have a spiritual director there with me, we'll just keep it basic.
There you go. That's a good one. I love Uniformity with God's Will. It's a great book.
Yeah.
I try to read it every 3 years.
Yeah. No, that one was really influential on me. Yeah. Although then I heard from like a spiritual director who's just like, Alfonso Segura is a little advanced. Why don't we start you off on St. Francis de Sales? So I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah, I love St. Alphonsus, man. Okay, so next question is, if you could pick one saint throughout the history of the church that you could interview on your YouTube channel, who would you pick?
Oh goodness. Oh geez. I don't know. The first one that comes to mind is Aquinas, or maybe even St. Francis de Sales, honestly, because since the channel's so focused on apologetics, I think St. Francis de Sales would probably be one of the guy, because it's just like, here, let me introduce you to this guy named James White. Let's talk about him for a second, and then watch him have an aneurysm.
Would you also have Bellarmine on too for that reason?
Believe it or not, and this is probably a big black eye on my reputation, but I actually haven't read anything from Bellarmine yet.
Sure. I mean, not there's some myths about Bellarmine, and but apologetics wise, he was also
Okay.
really good. Yeah. Okay, so last question, man.
All
And it's
right.
a question I ask everybody, and especially the men. It's 2024 or 2025. The Holy Father Pope Francis has passed. There's a conclave, and they say we need Kyle as the new pope, the head of the church. You're baptized male, so you qualify.
Mm-hmm.
And you got two questions. What is your pontiff name? And what are some things you would do that you think would benefit the church?
Well, so I would probably be Sixtus the Sixth for the memes. And then I'm straight up ripping this answer off from Trent Horn, but the first thing that I would do is publish an apostolic constitution that says you should not elect laymen to the papacy, and then immediately resign after that. I think that is the best thing I could do for the church. And then, since at that time I would be a bishop, I would probably just try to go retire to some monastery or something, or
And just be a hermit and pray.
yeah, I don't know. Like this is assuming, or like take my family, or I don't know, whatever. Like I think the best thing I could do for the church is get out of the church's way.
Yeah. That's a good answer, man. That's a very humble answer. I like it. Yeah. Anything else you want to share with us, brother?
Yeah. So check out my YouTube channel, just Kyle Whittington. It should be linked down in the description. I like to think that we do a pretty decent job. Got some pretty cool interviews, but the big one is actually coming up next week. I'm hosting a debate between Kevin Non-Tradicath and David Paulman, who is a Protestant apologist, but his expertise is it's going to be on the topic of were the Gospels anonymous or not. Which, as Catholics, like there's some hills that we need to die on against the Protestants, but this is one of those ones that it's just like no, we're all on the same page here, so we can really rely on them and their expertise. David's a cool guy. He actually works at a local Dillard's near where I live.
Nice.
And it's funny because he gets lambasted by James White all the time, which makes me really like him. So, but yeah, that's what I've got going on.
Yeah. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Basically, yeah.
I remember James White, man, from when I first started getting back in the faith around 2005, Benedict's reign. I was Protestant for a little bit, so Ray Comfort and that was my go-to. Lee Strobel, Ray Comfort, what's his name? William Lane Craig. Like I love listening to those guys. When I had my reversion back to the faith, primarily to the church fathers, I really liked St. Genus. So I would eat up all of those debates between St. Genus and White. I would watch. I would study every single one of them. Those were epic battles back and forth. I think those were really good.
Yeah. No, it's kind of sad because James White's only been saying the same thing since the 90s. And
no different. Yeah.
And it's just like it's like James, like you're smarter than this. I know you are.
Right.
And get some better arguments, please.
Yeah. Jerry McCaddox just absolutely destroyed him.
Ooh.
In a battle. Well, Jerry's he's instead of a contest, so I don't pay much attention to him. But at the time we debated, Jerry did a great job. I do have a last question for you.
Okay.
Actually, I have one more question. If you could have one apologist living today that would go, be on your side to go toe to toe with any Protestant rivals, who would you pick?
Just one. I would probably pick Swansona, actually.
Swansona, cool, man.
Yeah, so no, Swan's a really good friend of mine. And I know a little bit how his brain works. And it was funny because during the Gavin Ortland Trent Horn debate in Steubenville, I was sitting I drove Swan to that debate. And so I was sitting front row. I was watching Swan do that, and I didn't it was funny in the debrief, Trent mentions how he was looking at Swan to see if he was nodding his head or shaking his head just to see how he was doing. Yeah. So he's just like, if I'm doing this, is it landing? Swan's nodding his head. Okay, I'm doing good. So Swan is probably the guy that I would pick. If anything, we'd have a good chance of he'd have a good chance of carrying the team,
Sure.
and then like also like the dude's an absolute mean machine. So yeah,
He's very underrated in the apologetic scene, I think.
yeah, I think that's about to come to a quick and screeching halt though, because he's going to Harvard this fall,
Yes.
studying like Jewish law or something. Like he's going to Harvard School of Divinity, and he's got. I remember asking him like, "Hey man, why are you going to Harvard? Why don't you just go to Franciscan?" And he goes like, "I don't want to sound arrogant, but it's because I know what I want, and Harvard's got it." And I was just like, "Whoa." Like this is, I'm just having like Babe Ruth vibes of where he's like pointing where he's gonna,
Oh yeah,
where he's gonna put the ball, and that's exactly what
happy.
Swan did.
I'm happy he's on our team.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
I would pick either Eric Ibarra or William Auburn.
Yeah, no, both of those guys are incredibly intelligent,
Yeah.
yeah, no, and it's just like sometimes I think those guys have forgotten more than I'll ever know. So,
So, you forgot more than I'll ever know. So what does that put me, brother?
Yeah.
Hey man, I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. I had a blast getting to know you and just hanging out with you, man. Next time we do this, we'll do this with cigars.
Okay, yeah. Well, maybe I'll take a trip down to Steubenville and do it.
Yeah, so I'm in Kentucky. I think I'll be in PA in September. We'll see.
We might be living there by then, so we'll see.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, man.
If you want to stick around in the green room, we'll talk to you then. But other than that, God bless everybody. Thanks again. See you soon.